Hello everyone and welcome to a disgustingly beautiful game that was just played in the Chennai Grandmasters round 2, and you guys started recommending it before it was even finished because it's just out of this world, featuring Robson and Vidit Gujrathi. Just a day after I made the how to play against the London system, my second tutorial. Here we have the appearance of London system's evil brother, the Cola system. Some call it the Coley system or the Cooley system. Some call it with the French like the Kool-Aid system. But as he was Belgian, the Cola system, I believe, is the proper way to pronounce it. And yeah, I guess it's the new London. No one knows how to play against it, and people are having problems. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but it doesn't look good for the players wielding the black pieces. So let's see how it went for Vidit, and can he hold his own against the Cola system. Ray with white opens with pawn to d4. We have pawn to d5, knight to f3, knight to f6, and now bishop to f4 is the London. Of course, everyone knows that. But here we have pawn to e3, the so-called Cola system. Saying that the dark square bishop will be developed later on. Maybe, who knows how. Maybe you think of it. We'll see. We have pawn to e6 and knight b to d2. Already somewhat of a rare occurrence. Bishop to d3 is pretty much played here exclusively. We have knight b to d2 and pawn to c5 by Vidit. And why not? White is, messing around, not really doing anything. Why not grab the full center? Makes sense. b3, we have knight b to d7 and bishop to b2, making the intentions of the dark square bishop clear. Pawn to b6, and here there are some games. Bishop to d3 was played, knight to e5 is a known move, but here we have bishop to b5, and it is now as of move 7 that we have a completely new game. So okay, Vidit goes bishop to b7 and castles kingside by Ray. We have pawn to a6 challenging the bishop, bishop back to d3, bishop to e7, and pawn to a4, not allowing any b5, and perhaps considering pawn to a5 sometimes in the future. We have castles kingside, queen to e2, developing the queen, connecting rooks, and putting pressure on that a6 pawn, so you can't really go something like rook to c8. We have knight to e4, offering a trade of knights, and rook a to c1. Just nicely continuing development. We have bishop to d6. The bishop does have a pretty good time here, and also you're making it a bit of a problem for white to capture on e4 because okay, for the moment you cannot do it, but even if you could, you don't really want to. If this pawn ever comes to e4, the knight gets kicked away from f3, the bishop really comes alive, the queen gets access to h4, so you can't really do that. We have rook f to d1 and c captures on d4. Vidit trades once in the center, e captures on d4, and now bishop to f4. A very nice idea. Grabbing more space, limiting the sort of the options of white. The knight cannot move, the knight is pinned. So first rook to a1, moving the rook back to where it came from, and pawn to f5. Vidit just enjoying life. He has some spare time, so he grabs more space. We have knight to f1 and queen to f6. Okay, we have pawn to c4, finally advancing that c pawn. Queen to g6 by Vidit, and now pawn to a5, where you could capture big captures on a5 right away. Sort of the engines and neural networks taught us that whenever someone tries to appear like they have seen the great beyond, you just capture, and it's nothing spectacular. But here Vidit decides to throw in a nice Zwischenzug. D captures on c4, b captures, and now b captures on a5. Rook captures on a5, and now knight d to f6. Okay, how is white to continue this? We have knight to g3. You can see that black is really stockpiling all of the forces here. On the king side, the bishop, if it comes alive, then you could get checkmated very soon. We have queen to h6. Now, this knight is in some problems because this knight is coming to g4, and you will have so much pressure on that h2 pawn. If this knight moves, you trade bishop for knight, could be all over before you know it. So pawn to d5, closing up the diagonal of the light square bishop, and now knight to g4. Again, not very pleasant, putting pressure on h2, putting some real pressure on f2. And how are you to deal with this? You have to eliminate one of the knights. So that is exactly what Ray does. Bishop captures on e4, f captures, queen captures, and now e captures on d5. We have c captures on d5 and the rook a to e8. And now, if you count the material, Ray is indeed up a pawn, but his king is under a lot of pressure. Vidit plays queen to c4, prepares to unleash the pawn to d6, open up a discovery, and then happily play pawn to d7 and have the game in the bag with the passed pawn on d7. So rook to c8, attacking the queen, and here Vidit played rook to c5. Probably expecting that, okay, you don't want d6 to come with check, so he probably expected some like captures, and okay, the game continues. We play on. But here, Vidit had something else in mind. He played a brilliant attacking move that really challenged the not just Ray but also the entire Kola system. He played knight to e3, and this is just a beautiful move. It seems like okay, what are you doing? You're attacking my queen, but it's not that easy to solve. If play f captures, bishop captures, this comes with check. Also nicely connects with the rook. Let's say king h1, rook captures on c5, and okay, queen e4 still keeps white in the game, but it's the only move that keeps white in the game. So you would really have to be careful how you play this. On the other hand, after knight e3, Ray did not capture. Ray played rook captures on c8. He said, nope, this will not be your immortal game. This will be my immortal game. Even though I'm pretty sure Ray already has like 7 immortal games, but he said, no, today I want to be featured on Agadmator's channel. So did Vidit. So we'll see who gets featured. I mean, they both get featured, but you know what I mean. Knight captures on c4. We have rook captures on c4, and now queen to b6, attacking the bishop, and also just asking white, what do you do here? Because it's very difficult to make a move here for white. You move the bishop, queen b4. Sorry, not queen b4, queen b3, putting pressure on the rook, and it's going to be very unpleasant. If you go bishop to a1, then you can even capture on d5 because your back rank is weak. Something like captures queen to b1 with check. Okay, you can block with the knight, but queen captures and you've lost your prized fighter, the d5 pawn. So after queen b6, Ray said, nope, I'm going all out here. Bishop captures on g7. So it's not enough to sacrifice the queen. You have to continue happily sacrificing, like Mikhail Tal taught us many times. Captures, and now how do you continue? And what is the idea behind captures? Well, the idea is that if you capture, the knight h5 check simply connects with the bishop here, and after the king moves, you're gonna capture again, and okay, you have 2 knights and 2 rooks and the passed pawn. So, this is still anyone's game. But after bishop captures on g7, Vidit said, nope, I'm going queen b3, and good luck saving this position. I'm attacking your rook, I'm attacking your other rook. If you move this rook, then your pawn becomes weak. So how do you deal with this? Well, Ray could have played a slow move. Well, you can't really play a slow move. If you play something like rook d4, that's not all that impressive. You have to play rook d to d4. And now you hold. You defend this rook, you attack the bishop, and if, let's say, king captures on g7, you go rook b4, you capture the bishop, and then you continue marching this pawn forward. And with the light square bishop eliminated, you kind of don't have to worry about that f1 square, so you can nicely block any checks on the back rank with the knight f1 move. But okay, after queen b3, Ray finally stopped a little bit, played bishop captures on f8, captured some material, but now his position is lost. Vidit plays queen captures on c4. We have bishop to e7 and bishop captures on d5. So not very good for Ray. The position simplifies. He loses his prized d5 pawn, and now it's all Vidit. We have knight to h5 attacking the bishop, and here was the time for, but you also have to be mindful of the situation on the clocks. They are playing a minute and below 1 minute, so you have to play really quick moves here. And I imagine Vidit decided that it was too dangerous to play this for a win, even though position is winning. With a move like, let's say, queen c2, you attack the rook cannot capture, otherwise you get back rank mated. And if something like rook to a1, bishop to c1, and okay, maybe white can find a move that keeps the position alive, but it's practically game over. But after knight h5, Vidit decided to capture the knight on f3, as he has his king is less safe. He probably, the reasoning behind it is that, the less attackers in front of my king. I mean, I have a queen, the better for me. But okay, g captures on f3 and bishop to e5. We have bishop to f6 offering a trade, and bishop to c7. Vidit declines. We have rook to d7 with some pressure, as you really want to advance that pawn to a5, but the pressure is rook g7 check. And now after king to f8, you will play bishop to e7 with check, and after king e8, knight to f6 checkmate, as the d7 square is also covered by the knight. So after rook to d7, okay, you really want to start pushing, but you cannot do it right away. Queen to c1 check, king to g2, and now queen back to c5. We have rook to g7 check, king to f8, and now, okay, you don't have the checkmate because if you go bishop to e7 check, the queen happily sacrifices herself for the bishop and rook, and now the passed a pawn is just winning. So that's the problem. So rook captures on h7, and now bishop to d6. Again, covering that e7 square. Knight to g3, even though bishop to g7 is still winning, it's not very easy to find it. You go bishop to g8 with check, and after king to 8, you go knight to f6 with check, and now after king e7, knight to e4, and now you maintain a winning position because the queen is hanging, and also you have all of these nasty discoveries on the queen when you move the bishop. Really not a lot you can do here. For example, queen to f5, you can go bishop to f6 with check, king to e6, and that's all there is for black. You can play something like a rook to h6, threaten more discoveries, or you can put the rook behind the passed pawn, and really not a lot that black can do. Really, no move. You give a check, just bishop to g5, and that's it. There are no more active moves, and then even the h pawn starts marching forward. So that's the way to do it. But yeah, I mean, I show it to you guys, but with so little time on the clock, it's not easy. Knight to g3 was played, and now Vidit should capture that knight. And it was his sort of his strategy as soon as they entered this position where Vidit has a queen and they're both low on time. Just minimize the number of attackers in front of your king. You should just capture here, and after, let's say, h captures, you push the a pawn, and you have enough for at least a draw. With the bishop covering a1, it's very unlikely that you're going to ever queen that pawn. But yeah, it was definitely the way to go. Vidit played queen to d5, and now it is Ray who is completely winning, and he finds it. It's not very difficult to find. Knight to e4 is probably the first move that comes to mind because you really want to activate that knight, but it is what happens afterwards that matters. Look at this, bishop to b4, and now bishop to g7 with check. This is the suboptimal way to finish this position. The cleanest way to finish it is knight g5. And look at this. Now you cover everything in front of the black king. The knight covers f7, and rook h8 will be checkmate. Or if you try to stop that with something like king e8, then rook h8 check. And if you go here, then rook to d8 picks up the queen on d5. And other than that, you can block with the bishop to f8, but then knight h7, and you're gonna win another piece. You will have rook and 2 pieces for the queen, and of course that is completely winning. So after bishop to b4, bishop to g7 with check, also giving Vidit a little bit of chances. King to f7, and bishop back to c3 with check. King g6, so you don't give up the bishop for nothing. You have to attack that rook. Rook to g7 check. King to h6, again you keep an eye on that rook, and rook h7 check. King to g6, of course, you could also capture on h7, but then knight f6 check, and you run into a fork. So obviously, I know everyone sees it. You guys are very strong players, but just in case. So king to g6 was played, rook back to g7, king to h6, and okay, now Ray really wants to win. He goes knight f6. You can't capture the rook as the queen is hanging. Queen to c4. And now look at this, knight to g4 check. A beautiful check. The rook is covered, so you have to go up the board. King h5, and now a bishop to f6 by Ray. There was a cleaner way to do things, and I'm going to show it to you. It's rook to h7 check. King g5, or you could also go king to g6, but then rook h6 check, and then you have to go king to g5 because none of the other squares really work. If you go to f7, then knight to e5 check will pick up the queen, so you will have to go to king to g5, and then look at this, pawn to h4 check, king to f5, and now even rook to f6 with a beautiful checkmate. And after rook to h7 check, if you don't go king to g6, if you go king to g5, well then, again, just pawn to h4, king to f4, and look at this, bishop captures on b4. And that's it. The black queen cannot recapture. If the black queen captures or recaptures, it's rook to f7 checkmate. So this is a position impossible to calculate, with so little time on the clock. But I thought you guys would really love this. So bishop to f6 is what Ray plays, and now queen back to c1. Vidit, of course, maybe not unable to calculate all of the lines, realizes that his queen is within the reach of the knight on g4. So you have to, try something. Queen c1. Pawn to h4, limiting the mobility of that black king and preparing a very, very nasty checkmate. So how do you stop it? Bishop to d2. You have to stop rook to g5. We have bishop to e7 and queen to a1, attacking the rook, knight to f6 with check, king to h6, and now rook to g8, and that's all there is to it. The knight is covering these two squares, the rook is covering these three squares, bishop to f8, once it lands, it will be checkmate. So Vidit plays the only move he has in order to stop it, that's bishop to b4. Seems like a sacrifice, but not really. If you capture the bishop, then he plans on capturing the knight, and now there are a couple of ways you could win this game, but there's one that's instant resigns, so have at it. Feel free to pause the video and win the game for Ray Robson while I give you a couple of seconds. Of course, it is pawn to h5. This is what was played, and it was in this position on move 54 that Vidit Gujrathi resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Point is that you have no moves, and if you capture the bishop, then the idea is, of course, rook to g6 checkmate. If you don't capture the bishop, the idea is still rook to g6 checkmate, so there's really nothing to try here. You could prolong the game with something like queen b1, but, I mean, then just bishop captures on b4, next you play rook g6 check, then black gives up the queen, and then, okay, you can still play a few more. No, you can't even, because rook captures queen will also be checkmate, so there's really nothing to do. You could prolong with something like queen g1, but we're not going to discuss that. So yeah, pawn to h5, Vidit resigns, and what a wonderful game by both of them, but it is Ray Robson who takes this one. Two players are needed to create a masterpiece, sometimes one, but if you really want that nice masterpiece, then you need two, where both want to really win. And yeah, it was a nice attempt by both of them. They tried to out-sacrifice each other, but no, Ray Robson said, I'm going all out here, I'm sacrificing everything, and he checkmates Vidit with rook, knight, and bishop. So yeah, there you have it. It was almost stopped, but not really. The Cola system, like I said, London System's evil brother. Still haven't made any tutorials on that. I might in the future if you guys want it, if you face the Cola system quite a lot. Until then, do check out Lotus Chess. It features everything, even how to play against the Cola system. First link in the description below. Check it out. You will love it. Tell me, if there's anything you would like for them to add, or if you would like anything to be improved. I'm on a daily basis communication with them, and we will try to make it as great of an experience as possible. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Rajesh Kota, Phil Bawa, Fisher Exteriors, Tafaz Vanagvaru, and Alexander Schaefer for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. Really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.